And welcome everybody to a Minuteman University chat. The concept here is to talk about putting your projects, your pro-gun stuff up on the internet. And the topic of today's chat specifically will be websites, building a website. And we're starting out this project with some of the basics. So we're going to be talking theory today, why you might want a website, some of the general steps to getting one started. And then in future shows, we'll go into more specifics and going forward then if people start projects or if people find the Minuteman University project here and bring their questions and their experiences to it, hopefully we'll all be able to collaborate and learn from each other's mistakes and successes. So we've got some people joining us today. We have, I'm going to just go from my left to my right. We got Jimmy James jumping in from Phoenix, host of Early Watch over on Gun Channels, co-host of the Daily Gun Show in the evenings on Gun Channels as well. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, very good to be here. Thanks.
We got Ghost Tactical jumping in from Arkansas, host of Tactical Tuesdays and other projects out there on the webs. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And then Night Strike, host of Hit or Miss on Tuesdays on Gun Channels as well. And I don't know if you want to start talking about that, but
no, go ahead if you want to. Go for it.
I'm working on the GunTube alternative to video hosting for Gun Channels and stuff. So thanks for jumping in.
Thanks.
We got invites out to some of the other guys from Gun Channels and who are familiar with websites. But if you're out there and you're familiar with websites and I just don't know it, feel free to let us know. We are watching the comments while we're filming this live. We're doing this kind of impromptu on Thursday afternoon. Just noticed that Ghost's been getting over some illness and had some time, and Jimmy and I had planned to do something, and our plans got changed. So we had some time in our schedule. So we kind of took the advantage. Night Strike had some time. And like I say, if we can get some other guys in here, feel free to join in, ask questions in the comments. We are, of course, recording it on YouTube.
In our schedule.
Oops, we're recording it on YouTube, so we are watching people out there. I'm doing it on the Every Second Matters channel. Because the goal of mine isn't to brand every single thing with a new YouTube channel. So hopefully people don't mind if we mash Every Second Matters and Minuteman University together just for the sake of having fewer YouTube channels to keep track of. But again, we're watching the comments out there. So anybody that's got questions, feel free to be part of the show. That's what this is all about, the concept of new media, not taking existing stuff like TV shows and books and radio shows and cramming them on the internet, but instead using the power of the internet and its democratized information flow. In other words, the information doesn't come from the top down through publishers or broadcasters, but instead information can trickle up from the individuals through the community, and then the best stuff can rise to the top. And I really think that's a lot closer to the way we run this country, right? We have individual experiments. They all come together and work together. We all share from each other's mistakes and successes, and hopefully in the long run, we come out better as a team. So that's the point of this, and we're going to do a quick one today, talking about theory and some of the concepts of why you might want to start a website and how you would do that. The goal then would be if you decide this is something you want to do and you have time to do it, we'll wait maybe a week and a half or so. Maybe a week from now, we'll get together again with people who have been, I guess we got SHOT Show next week, so we'll wait a couple of weeks. And then anybody who's started out or explored this a bit can come in with questions and we can address those. In the meantime, we'll start up another discussion, maybe how to start a YouTube channel or how to start an Instagram account or some other skill set. And we'll do that. We'll start skill sets, do these little primer shows to talk about a subject or a skill set. And then in future shows, we'll discuss our experiences with it. Again, with the idea that we'll all share from each other's mistakes and successes. All right, with that said, the general theory or goal today, where should we get started? We'll put the question out there to the audience, and I guess I'll start with just asking people in the chat here now, your experiences with websites, building websites, using websites. Of course, we've all used them, but general interest and knowledge about them. Kind of putting you on the spot, but I'll start with Jimmy because he's good at being put on the spot.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny, and my wife was kind of giving me crap about it earlier. well, earlier in the year. But anyway,
Earlier in
yeah,
the year,
when I first started this up, I didn't know nothing about computers. Oh, my bad.
earlier in the year, like 10 days ago.
Anyway,
Last year.
later last year, earlier, later last year. Anyway, um, yeah. So me 2 years ago, barely even knew what was going on. I didn't even own a laptop or anything like that. I was the type of person to like pound on the keyboard with my index finger and couple of these, a couple of these little Minuteman sessions, Gun Channel University sessions. G Web's helping me. Pink actually helped me a lot too in my earlier days. Night Strike ish, yeah. Night Strike help. Night Strike help. He was there. But yeah. Anyway, 2 years later, yeah, I've been helping build some of the websites over for gun websites and stuff like that, and yeah, it's been a great experience. So definitely for novices out there or beginners or whatever you want to call it, it is intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of stuff, it's really easy, especially when it comes to like building websites and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I still have much, much, much to learn, but it's something that a novice can get into if they have somebody that's helping them out. So yeah, definitely don't be intimidated to jump in. I guess that would be my 2 cents.
Oh, I think he's excelled there, being put on a spot like that. I didn't give him any warning that I was going to ask him that, so perfect. Ghost, how about you?
Yeah, I had done some stuff a few years back, the very basic website stuff. But I guess it was like July or August when I kind of got the YouTube thing going. I thought it would be a good opportunity to start a website that would be more of a centralized location where anyone that wanted to know where my links were and where I was and posting all my information could go to my website, and on the front page I'll have, like the basics, links to all my stuff, and then the shop and all that. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be, because several years back when I was doing it, I was trying to do some HTML stuff, and that took me a while because I'm not very educated in HTML and the WordPress stuff, like you and I were talking earlier, G, before the show. But the WordPress stuff has made it so much easier to kind of just upload your graphics and all of that stuff and kind of just move them and put them where you want. It has made it to where I think anyone that is interested in a website, it's very, very easy to do in its simplest terms, because it's pretty much there for you. You just have to find the theme that you want and then just kind of move stuff around. So yeah, it's helped me a lot for sure.
Right on. And then Night Strike.
I've been doing websites since the late 90s when I was in high school. So I've also done it professionally for businesses that I do IT work for, and I do my own websites as well. So I've had experience since the late 90s. Let's put it that way.
Right on. And similar boat. So been playing with them a lot, like them, and I definitely see the value in them. That's why I'm doing this reach to let people know. I think I found, like Jimmy said, that once people see behind the scenes there, it becomes less of a magic, I guess. And like Ghost said, once you start using some of the tools that we've got out there, WordPress is a tool for helping manage and build a website. It's a lot more like creating a channel on a social media platform, right? As opposed to, back in the day when you had to code or something. Jimmy's asking which YouTube channel. It's the Every Second Matters YouTube channel.
I started out just coding everything in HTML.
Right. Back in the day, it was definitely more complicated. And I think most people don't think about owning a piece of the internet. You think of it as like a city or something. You go down there and you visit the shops, you visit the museums, maybe a concert or something, and you go home. And that's definitely, there's a lot of audience out there. There's 360 million people in this country. I don't know how many billions of people on the planet. I guess 7 billion people on the planet. And some of those people, are content to just be audience, and that's fine. But I know some people are curious, and some people just don't think about it. But hopefully this will inspire some people who have been thinking about it to dig in, and maybe somebody who's never even thought about it to at least consider it. And that's really the goal here. So one of the things Jimmy was talking about was how quickly you can get into it. And I think, again, just kind of knowing the structure and what the concepts are will hopefully allow people to dig in and either using these tools. There's plenty of other tools on the internet on building the internet, right? So once you find out that it's something you're interested in, pursuing it should be relatively simple as far as things go. And again, when we meet again, if people have started some projects, we'll be able to dig into specifics. But in general, let's talk about, like Ghost said, why you might want a website. I think one of the foremost reasons is just to consolidate or give yourself a base camp. Again, if you consider the internet property, real estate, you can be you can rent an apartment. That's like being on a YouTube channel or a Facebook or even gun channels, because you don't really own the property. You're just, renting or borrowing a spot, where building a website is claiming a stake. It's putting out your own 40 acres and a mule or whatever and building. You can build a little cabin. You could build a shack. You can use it as hunting property, or you could turn it into Trump Towers or something and go real elaborate with it. So as far as the basics of it, I'm going to, instead of talking the whole time, I'm going to let Jimmy explain what the pieces are that you need to start assembling, or how do you get started? Or either goes
building, you mean? Like after you already own the domain and all that?
No, let's start with, you've got the concept in your head, I want to start a website. And Ghost, feel free to chime in, but me and Night Strike will sit back because our experience is different.
Right.
Just haven't been familiar with it for so long. I think that we tend to assume too much. So I'd rather have you guys who are more new to the experience of starting one.
Yeah, I have a habit of making it more complicated than it needs to be.
And you know what? And I've noticed that, and definitely no disrespect to anybody that I mentioned earlier that mentored me, because like I said, I knew nothing, zero, less than zero. I was a super computer illiterate. So anyway, but Night Strike hit on a good point there, is that they've been doing it for a long time, and there's people out there that have been doing it for a long time. So they have their way to do it, and their way works, and that's awesome. But once you figure out the old way, and how it's a little bit complicated, it's sometimes lengthy. Sometimes you're not doing necessarily an extra step, but there are steps that can be skipped, or you can organize these steps so that it makes it seem like it's kind of quicker. Whereas, and you learn that, and now coming in as somebody new, you can take that and have your own way. There's a million different ways that you could do.
Me and you have realized that there's more than one way to do it. So
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
the right way. There is no right or wrong way. There's get out there and do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. There's the way that the older people that have been in it for I don't mean older in age, but I mean older and doing it for longer, do it. And then you can figure out so many different ways. So that's why it's pretty awesome.
Okay, but again, starting from, I want to build a website. Where do we go?
I think the first thing you got to do is find whatever your channel or whatever it used to be. Go in and try to that custom, and sometimes it's like $10 a year or something like that. Depending on where you get it from, but owning your own customized URL is the first step, in my opinion, because once you own that URL, and Lock Rocks was talking about that also, that's the first thing that I did was I went and tried to find ghosttactical.com. Well, it wasn't available. And I didn't want to do something different. I wanted Ghost Tactical because that's the brand that I'm trying to use. So my alternative was a couple different ones, and the one that I came up with was .us. Which is fine. It's one of those things where it might not get as many search results if you type in ghosttactical.us or whatever, but excuse me, I'm sick. So the first thing I did was try to secure a custom URL before I even thought about going and finding Wix or GoDaddy or whichever hosting service that you want to do is before. Yeah, and for me it was, what's the name of your brand? What are you trying to name yourself? And that's what you got to go secure first and foremost. That's, for me, it was easiest.
That name is definitely the important part. I mean, you want it to be able to, like Ghost was just saying, you want it to be able to fit with your branding. You want people to be able to find it. So that's definitely an important part of it. And then there's going about getting the domain, all that. So
Okay, so getting a domain name, but I think Ghost kind of blew right past the you mentioned figure out what you're going to do. So back in the day, I started building websites for basically sharing our pictures of fishing. So I went to and I knew I was doing that. I was doing that on Hot Dog, an old-fashioned AOL thing. And it was just something like AOL.com/whatever my name was /something.
I love Hot Dog.
Horribly long URL. So whenever I decided, I'm going to do this, make it a little easier and try building a website, there was at the time, the Arizona Game and Fish had a bumper sticker that said fish in AZ or something. And then it had like a picture of a fish. And I was thinking, I could get that URL and then I'd have a free bumper sticker. So I just put the URL and started putting stuff there. And that's the thing. You once you've figured out what you're going to do, like I already knew I was going to be building fishing stuff. The name kind of came to me. But for Second Amendment stuff, you want to think, are you just going to be sharing stuff? Or are you going to be, what's your overall goal? Where do you want to take this project? And then, so I'd say that's your first step, is first figure out what you want to do. But then once you've got a pretty good idea of where you want to go with it, then like you guys said, everything you guys said there was spot on. So specifics, buying a domain name. It's kind of like buying a trademark, like Tide laundry detergent or whatever. Nobody else can be called Tide. The way the internet works, everything has an address. So there's some people out there that play referee and you buy the name from them. And as long as nobody else has it, as soon as you start buying that name or renting that name from the internet, you could say it's yours. So everybody else has to leave it alone. But what happens is you've got different ways to spell. You've got different extensions. So when we talk about a domain name, it's usually going to be something or another .com or something or another .org or something or another .net. Those .somethings are the extensions. And like Ghost talked about, there was already somebody on ghosttactical.com, I guess.
Yes.
And then also the .net and also you maybe didn't want the .org because
it was .com and .net were the two that I was wanting to get, and they were both taken.
And there's really no, in case you don't know, there's no real laws about the whatever they are, the extensions there, except for the orgs. I mean, not the orgs, the govs, and some of those that would imply official status. Those you can't just buy. You have to somehow prove to somebody, I guess, that you are actually that entity or whatever, that you qualify for the .gov, for example, so that you don't put yourself out there, so the scammer doesn't put themselves out there as official, right? So you figure out what wherever is available, but then I always take a look at in my past buying domain names is I'll see like I want something or another .com and it's taken, then I'll say okay, .net's still available, .us, the others are available. I'll take a look at the .com and see if it's active. If you think of the internet as real estate, there's an awful lot of speculators out there, people that will just buy names because they anticipate somebody might want to do something with that name. And if they buy it for, whatever, when you first buy a domain, if it's not in demand and no one else has already bought it and there's not a lot of attention to it, it might be just a couple of bucks, under $10. So you buy that thing for under $10. Whoever bought, for example, I don't know, Christmas.com or something, whoever bought that originally probably could turn around and sell it for more because somebody else come along with a business that says, I could build a thriving business and I need that name to brand it. So it's worth something for me to buy that name from you. And so that's why I take a look to see when I'm looking at a name, if the .com is up and running and it's an active, working store or something, then do I really want to put myself down as the .com next to it or the .org next to it or something? And sometimes it doesn't matter though. Sometimes you go to the .com and it's just somebody that bought it on speculation and it's just sitting there dead, or it's on a placeholder type of website, but it's not doing anything. Then I guess you have a decision. You can either go forward using a .net or something like that and hope that somebody doesn't come along with the .com and either put something similar down next to you so that they catch all the people who spell it wrong once you're up and thriving, or they try to sell it to you. And of course, they're going to sell it to you at some sort of massive profit, ideally. So That's my only insight. Night Strike, you had any insight? I'm sure you bought quite a few domains over the years.
Oh, I bought hundreds, but not nearly as many as you, but quite a bit. Yeah, no, that's good. Though I said something on the side chat. I don't know if you want me to say that in here because it's a little more detailed. So, but I think we need to go over that at one point.
I'm not sure. So that's you're asking about, should we talk about all those extensions? And there's a lot of them. So I don't know. I think that might be a little too nerdy for this one, but let's leave that out there as a kernel or a seed. If people want us to talk about specifics, for example, the extensions, let us know. We can always do another short episode like this to touch on it, or we can, on the website, we can always address some of these things that might not need a whole video or something.
But going to domains, there have been times where I've been working for a business and doing their website, and turns out either they've let their domain name lapse before and they can't get it back. So we'd have to figure out and redo the site for a different domain that we've gotten for them. And if you're building your own website, remember to go and keep on top of your domain name registration, because if you let it lapse, it may be heaven or hell to get it back.
That's a good point, and that's probably, again, it's tough to know when we're delving into too many cost tangents or something here, but that's a good point. Whenever you are going to go buy your domain name, you got to buy it from someone, right? Those are called registrars. Back in the old days, there was one. They opened up to 5, and I don't know how many there are now, probably quite a few. But there's basically designated people who have the ability to sell or rent you, whatever you want to say, domain name. Everybody's different too. I mean, it's different when you've got, a couple of bucks you're trying to hobble together to start a project, or you've got maybe some investors or some extra money, and this is a hobby and you want to throw a couple of bucks at it. Sometimes they're going to, just like anything, if you buy 5 years at a time, it's a little cheaper. If you buy 10 years at a time, it's a little cheaper. So if you've got the income and you know that this is going to be a long-term project, and you don't want to deal with Night Strike just talked about there, that, every year you got to pay for this thing. And if you forget to put it on auto pay or something, and it gets lost, especially if it's an active website, more than likely some jerk is going to come along, see that it was an active website, that the name got let go, and they're going to grab that name for $7 and then charge you whatever they feel is appropriate to get it back.
I've had that issue with dealing with clients because some of them would rather do the whole year-to-year thing than they would paying for 5 years in advance. Even if it is you're paying all up front, they don't necessarily want to pay that much out.
And a lot of times the 5 years at a time thing isn't all that ideal either, because same thing, somebody will pay for it for 5 years in advance, totally forget that they even have a domain name responsibility. 6 years later, they're wondering why their website now is a bunch of, television sets or something.
Right.
And that's what'll happen. You basically, when you're putting presence on the internet, again, I like to think of the internet as real estate. It's virtual real estate or cyber real estate, but it's like the old territory, like the old frontier. You build something out there and it exists. So you go out there and you cut down a bunch of trees and you build up a little log cabin and you start selling furs and you make some money and you build a bigger cabin, and now you're a dude ranch and you get more money and you start building a hotel, and now you've got this thriving casino out in the middle of nowhere. People are flocking from miles away. You lose your domain name. You've had all this attention, and they just knock down your casino and put up a used car lot or a television lot or a cosmetic.
Raphael just asked a good question out there on the Gun Channel side, and I want to address that real quick. But he asked, how do you know if your name has not been picked when you're searching for a domain? Usually, when you go to a domain registrar, they will have a little search engine thing, which you can type in the name of the domain you want. Like, say you wanted nightstrike.com. You type that in, it'll show you whether you can get nightstrike.com or if you can get nightstrike.net or .org, like that right there. So GWebs is
just went to GoDaddy on my screen here, and right when you go to any of the registrars, usually right on the front, they'll tell you, here's, type in your name, see if it's available. So they're offering a 99-cent with a little asterisk on your first .com. So like Night Strike, so I'm going to try searching for Night Strike, and it'll tell me that nightstrike.com is already taken. I can get the Night Strike. It's going to give me some versions of it, and none of these look good to me, so I would probably keep looking. But then it's not even recommending the .nets and stuff, so it looks like all of those are gone. But then if it is taken, you know right away, and now maybe you just alter it a little bit, a way that you'd rather have it altered, and then search again. Now, when I spelled it stupid, it came up fine. Now, of course, I could buy that domain name, but I would never want to buy something as crazy as that. I mean, Natestrike's already experienced it, trying to tell people the why. It's you're trying to tell them to spell weird. So I think another option would be to put that I back in there, and maybe even, I'm assuming the real Nightstrike is gone. I'm going to get rid of the Y, I guess. But the real Nightstrike is probably gone also. So it's available through auctions, which means that somebody does own it, but they don't want it, and they're just
sitting on it.
Yeah, they're speculators, so they're going to sell it to you at an auction. So that means you got to bid against other people. But anyhow, you could do things like put a dash in there. That's a valid character for URLs, and there's very few. I think that's the only one actually. But if you search again, even that one's taken. So it's possible that whoever owned the regular Nightstrike decided, just in case someone decides to spell it this way, I'm going to buy both. And we'll quickly touch on that. You can buy as many names as you want, and once you own them, you have the ability to do different things with them. One of the things you can do is consolidate them, point a bunch of them to one place. So, for example, on gunwebsites.com, if you type in .net, .org, .whatever, it should all go to .com, because I own them all and I funnel them or point them all to the .com to avoid confusion or somebody squatting next to me. So you can do something like that, or you could do Second Amendment awareness in California, and then California Second Amendment awareness, Second Amendment awareness CA. So different URLs that you think you might want or that seem cool, and you have the money to spend on them. And then again, if you're not going to develop each of them into a separate project, you can point them all at the main name. Like I say, we could probably get way into this, so I want to.
I think we've explained it pretty well.
Yeah. All right, so
after you get the domain name, what next?
Yeah, so that's
something that. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, please.
Well, there was something Locks and Rocks brought it up in the YouTube side a little earlier, and it was a question that I kind of was curious about too, about hosting. So he was saying you need to shop for a host recommendations, ? You could host the site yourself, but then you need to set up a static IP and have enough bandwidth to handle the traffic. So would hosting something yourself, would that be a realistic option? But he needs a lot of money for, is that something, a road people can go down?
Well, you have to realize you're going to have a computer on all the time in your house, connected to the internet 24/7 for a website like that.
It's an option. What we're talking about next. So you have a domain name, and next you have to, next you want to implement, you want to do something with that domain name. So a website requires 3 pieces. It requires the domain name, something to call the website. It requires a place to live, call that a server. And then it requires some software, something that, you've got the name and you've got the internet telling people once they type in this name. I guess we didn't finish that. When you buy the domain name from a place, they're going to ask you, where do you want us to point this domain name? And that's where you go get yourself a server, and then you tell your registrar, the person you bought the domain name from, you tell them where you want to point it. And that's the hardware. That's the server. The question was, do you host yourself with a static IP and all that technical stuff? You'd point that domain name to a computer somewhere. Either you put the computer in your house, like Nightstrike just tried to describe, like you'd have to leave it on all the time. You'd have to have a good connection. You'd have to know what you're doing. Or you go to a service that provides that service to you. And whatever that might be. GoDaddy has it. 1&1 is a hosting service. Gator something or another. HostGator is one. You'll find them out there, and we can do whole discussions on those. I've used pretty much all of them over the years. Nightstrike has used, and they're like anything. A business changes, so what might have been bad years ago is okay now, or great now. And it's one of those things that you're going to want to monitor occasionally, is the performance of the various hosts out there, the servers. But once you've got the domain name, you're going to want to go find a server. And again, you can use the internet as your friend on that. There's lots and lots of information available. If it gets too tedious, feel free to jump over to Gun Channels and ask some of the people that are familiar with this stuff. Myself, Nightstrike, TacDaddy, CloverTac come to mind. But if there's other people out there that are into building websites, just let yourself be known and be a mentor to people, coach them. But there's lots of different hosting services. You're not going to be obligated to it for more than a month or a year. So depending on if you do monthly hosting or if you do yearly hosting, it's just like any service, like a cell phone or cable or water delivery to the house. If you're not satisfied with the service, you just move. And we're talking anywhere from dollars a month to dozens of dollars a year. I mean, it can be very inexpensive for hosting, especially if your project doesn't require a lot of stuff, if it doesn't require a lot of technical stuff. So most website projects don't. Very elaborate ones like a gun channels, where we have a giant social media platform with thousands of people potentially using it. That requires
intensive.
Yeah, resources. Thanks. But a smaller website that's just a hub of your social network activity or your social platform activities and your content creation doesn't need to be very elaborate. So it can be quite inexpensive. So I'm going to suggest cost-wise, you get your domain name. You're probably talking under $10. A lot of the times your first domain name is a penny for the first year or 99 cents for the first year. So that should be very inconsequential. If you bought 5 years at a time, you might be talking $50, $60. So it's not super expensive to get your domain name or to acquire your domain name. Then your server, again, if you buy it month to month, it's a little bit more than if you buy it by the year. But we're talking anywhere from $10 to $20 a month for a beginner's level server. And then again, whatever that would extrapolate out to a year minus some discounts. So that's about as much as you're going to pay for it. And then the third element would be the software, what you're going to run the website on, what you're going to do with the website once people have found it. But I want to, instead of going straight into that, take a break, get Jimmy and Ghost back in here, because this is really an effort in not me and Night Strike lecturing as much as everybody getting to know this stuff. So without going too far into the software with the domains and the hosting, let's, I don't know, just go back and readdress that stuff. Or if you have any questions.
Take it away, Jimmy.
Oh, for the hosting stuff. The question that I had would actually goes beyond what we were talking about next. Because what I'm curious is you say that the hosting and the servers or whatever, that you can start off very inexpensively, but then the whole blowing up once you start getting a lot of traffic and in and out, is that going to start getting more expensive down the road? So that's what I was kind of going for, but I might be jumping too far ahead.
It is, but only if you get a lot of traffic. But with most of these large web hosts, you can upgrade your web hosting account. So that's only one aspect. You don't have to do anything else to your domain. You just have to get a better hosting account.
But,
right. Equate it to a cell phone service. You go out and you decide, okay, we're talking like it's a very similar to getting a cell phone service. First, you're going to decide what carrier you're going to go with. Okay, I'm going to go with Verizon or AT&T or whatever, T-Mobile. And then you decide, okay, let's say for a business, you might want a specific phone number, and that would be our domain name. Now, you don't really get specific phone numbers very often with cell phones, but so once you've got your phone number and you've got your service, then you pick your phone, and that's kind of like buying your server or whatever. So you rent your phone from the company or whatever, and you're out there using it, and you've got your data plan, whatever it happens to be. So you bought this AT&T phone with this data plan, and you go forth into the world, and you're really successful, and you're getting so many phone calls, and you're on the phone so often that you need more gigabytes for your plan. You upgrade the plan by calling AT&T and saying, give me more gigabytes, right? They charge you more, and your phone stays the same, your phone number stays the same, the apps on your phone are the same. It's very similar. So unless you really cheap out, or I guess nerd out, and try to do something like set up a computer in your house as a server, and then set up a project on it, become very successful, and then you might find, now I have to go buy another computer, and I have to go buy a higher internet connection speed, and I got to go buy all this stuff. Instead, you would just call the GoDaddy or HostGator or whoever it is and say, I need more room. Give me more room. And they say, okay, it's $14 a month now instead of 16, or 16 instead of 14, or it's 20 instead of 14.
Right.
So would there be? Oh, go ahead.
No, go please.
I was just gonna ask if would there be, like, what would the detriment of it be? Would it be something like along the lines of VidMe, to where if you had too much traffic and you weren't ready for it, like how badly can you screw yourself? Would it be just as bad as having to shut down for a little while, or would it be like bankruptcy, you know?
Interesting. All right. So in the beginning, starting off with a basic website, you bought a domain, you bought an introductory hosting package or server package somewhere, and then you started working on the project. What failures could you have? More than likely, like, just like any business, people lose interest, life stuff happens and changes. You're not as successful as you thought. It doesn't pay for itself, whatever. Most people are just going to end up not doing anything with it. And the consequences there are you got to live out your contracts. So you bought that domain name for a year. You set it to not renew. It goes away after the year. You were only out that initial $1 or $10 or something. The service that you buy on the hosting dwindles off and you don't renew it. So at the end of the month, at the end of the year, or whatever the service plan is, your website just disappears. So worst case scenario, you start a project, it costs you $60 to get going. You're all gung ho. You find out that whatever, you don't like guns anymore or something. Bloomberg was right. You're going to go work for Pelosi. You just let it all die. You just walk away. You don't let anything auto renew and you're done. If you are successful and you're digging it, you just let everything auto renew. And next year, you're going to get a $10 charge on the anniversary of your domain name or something around there. And then you'll get again, whatever it is, a monthly fee or the yearly fee for your server. And that'll be the consequence there. If you're super successful and, all of a sudden you're busting your servers, you just have to pay more. So you just pay more for a server next month or next year.
Right.
There's not too much consequence as far as the domain names. Now you can get into all kinds of serious trouble if you try to sell something and don't have the product, but that's a whole different thing or something.
The only consequence really is not renewing your domain name.
Yeah, that's the whole different issue when you're talking about a website. For like my website is more, like you said, of the home camp to be able to let everybody know everywhere I am, instead of, some of these websites are there to strictly sell product. So there's whole different hosting aspects as to who does a better hosting job when you're selling, a marketplace on your website too. So,
but nowadays with the different marketplaces, it depends on what you're using. For example, if you're using the PayPal clickable links and all of that, it really doesn't matter, who you're using if you're using something like that, because that's a really lightweight setup that PayPal has that you just integrate into the code.
Exactly.
Clover jumped in from Texas. Been doing websites since the 90s. Also did it professionally for a long, long time. So we've been talking now for some amount of time. I think we started right at the top of the hour, so we've been about half an hour, 40 minutes in. We're calling it just Building Websites 101. The idea is to do just the general concepts theory. And then if people are interested in getting enthused by this and go out and pursue it, we'll follow up in a week, or I guess after shot. We'll get together with anybody who's interested and talk about their specific situations, any questions they might have come across while preparing or actually implementing a project like this. And then we'll keep doing different videos like this on other subjects. But with that in mind, I don't know if you've been watching or if you want to address anything that we missed so far.
Yeah, I haven't been watching. I literally just got in. Thursday's my archery class.
And for people that are wondering, we just came up with this because Ghost was sick and he was around, and Jimmy and I were going to do something today. We just saw that the three of us were available. So Clover only knew about this 2 minutes before we knew about this. It wasn't a planned thing or anything.
I knew about 5 minutes ahead of time, and I asked for a link.
But we were addressing the question of what could go bad. What's the worst case scenario? You start a project, you build a domain name. I guess the embarrassment, That's
it. I mean, but failure breeds success. At least that's my opinion.
Oh yeah. So, here's a neat thing too. You build a website.
You can always learn from failure. So I don't see anything wrong with it. But there's not anything that's there's nothing that's gonna bankrupt you. There's nothing that's gonna even necessarily ruin your brand. I mean, depending on what you're using the website for. I mean, my website, if it was to fold tomorrow, I mean, it's, I'm so early in the stages and everybody is so non-dependent upon it anyway. It's more of a centralized hub that, most people's not even going to notice it's down. So
I guess if we take it to a couple of next levels, let's say you start a project, you're going to work with a manufacturer, a gun shop, or some kind of person who's sponsoring the project, and something folds, then you've got obligations there. If you were to build a project on a poor idea, like, you're going to make Glock instead of Glock, and you can use the same logo, and then you're going to make fun of Glock publicly and get copyright sued or something. I mean, there's those kind of consequences, but that would be more of the topic of the project as opposed to the consequences of buying the domain or the web service or anything like that.
For the most part, then it's inconsequential.
Yeah, as long as you're doing something up and up and adding to the collective, knowledge, then I was going to also say one of the neat things is you build a website and a project or something, and again, maybe you just get busy, you have a kid, you move, and you're just not able to pursue it. You don't have the funds, and it drops off, and now it's it's a project that existed and it's no longer there. There are more than one thing that go out and record the internet. They just take carbon copies of the internet every day. So any info, any content that you provide to the internet is going to be there in the long term. Even if you're not paying for it, it'll exist. So any contribution you make to the overall collective knowledge, I think, is still worthwhile. So if you've got 2 months or 8 months to devote to something, and you see a lack of information in some area that you can add insight to, I think it's definitely worthy as an individual to add to the collective knowledge. Going forward, we've already got the Library of Congress on digital. Like, going forward, the internet, what seems massive today is going to be microscopic in the future, right? So I think you can literally be part of the future history by contributing to what's developing now on this, what seems like an old, established internet, but it's really just the infantile stages of whatever is going to be developed from this.
Well, because it's just the internet is just it's just a highway. The vehicles we drive on that highway are ever changing. So, the thing about it, you're right. And then even if you're not a content creator or whatever, I mean, having a website, just something rudimentary, and having something as simple as a blog that you don't necessarily have to get personal, but just logging your days of minutes. I mean, imagine 30, 40 years from now, somebody looking back, searching through the internet and running across those blogs like that. I run across them now from 10, 15 years ago sometimes, and it's interesting what people were going through and their perspectives on certain events and situations. So in this day and age where history tries to be rewritten and whitewashed,
revisionist.
It's good to have that. It's good to have that stuff. Do what?
Revisionist.
Yeah, we're moving beyond a place where people can revise, because there is archived data that exists. So it just, all they can do in the future is deny, but it'll be more and more difficult when the information is readily available to everybody.
Right.
In the time that I've been doing stuff gun related in the last 13 whatever years now, or I guess it's longer now, but I'm just thinking of the gun shops that I've gone in and taken photos of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now that don't exist. That now there are record out there. There's pictures. I posted some reviews. Unlike Yelp or one of the online directories, which are database driven and probably aren't archived the same way as an individual static website. That's, again, creating data that'll never disappear from the internet again. You're thinking of a project. We're going to spend the rest of the time talking about why you'd even want a website instead of any of this technical specific stuff, just in general theory why you'd want one. And I'll start that with, again, trying to do something for the second, do something for the future. Again, somebody goes out and searches for west of the Pecos guns in Tucson on Pima. That's been gone for, I don't know, think about how many years now, almost a decade. And they're going to find some pictures out there of my old websites and other people's old websites, other people's old blogs, like Clover said. And that's the history of that website, of that gun shop. It'll never be forgotten from time now. All those gun shops that came and gone in the 70s and the 80s will never have an opportunity. You'll maybe have a photograph in a shoebox somewhere, but it's not accessible to the rest of the world. The efforts that you put out there, even if they seem inconsequential, are potentially of great value to the future and to just the general collective. Again, there's things that go out and search the entire internet and take a photocopy of it. When they do that, they're not just doing it for shits and giggles. They're doing that to gain data, to gain insight and knowledge about what's going on out there. The more information that we as individuals put out that's pro Second Amendment, that's pro gun, it keeps that as a valid topic of discussion. It proves that that's a subject that people are interested in. I think it has ultimate value. But why would you want a website in the first place? And again, I'm going to say, Mike Strike, Clover, and I, let's step back and let Ghost and Jimmy talk about this, because it's really for the new people, not like a lecture.
Yeah, or put it out in the chat as well. There's 10
and
out there.
Please, yeah, all interactive. So if you're watching this live, we got 10 people watching live. Appreciate that. Kind of unscheduled here, but if you have any questions, definitely let us know. But Jimmy and Clover, Ghost, why would you even want a website, or why did you guys? Go ahead.
Well, the best way that I've heard it described so far, well, obviously, like I was just saying, I haven't had much experience other than the past year. But G-Webs was telling me it's like kind of looking at it like fishing and it's having another hook in the water, bringing more traffic to your brand, having more eyes on your stuff, and then also having a place to direct people towards that already are aware of what you're doing, and keep them updated on what else you got going on, what other projects you may have going on. It's just a smart thing to have if you're trying to have something going on, whether it be a crowdfunding thing, a project, a podcast, whatever. It's just good to have, in my opinion.
So you're talking more the central hub idea.
Yeah. Having an HQ, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've started out with, and trying to have a place where people can go, instead of giving a bunch of links out to all my different platforms, give them one website. They can manage their way to all the different platforms that I'm on. You have the online store if they want to do that. You have the drill of the month winners and targets to download and all that. But it basically comes down to it's a central hub that a person can easily navigate to all my different platforms and all the different information from one place.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Right on. So I'll just throw in there that a couple of times over the years, I've noticed that it's also been for my own use. By having a blog, by having websites that you have contributed information to over the years, ideally they're going to be dated or something, it becomes an archive for yourself. So how many times in a chat or something we'll be talking about something and I can go access something, something I did 8 years ago that might be relevant to a conversation or something. So it's just good for your own purposes. Somebody asks you a question about something, instead of looking through bookmarks or on my phone, it's your own little Rolodex for your own adventures. And lots of uses for that if you're out creating a project. Also, every once in a while I'll sit back and think, what am I doing this for? Like, how many years have I been doing this? And I'll go back and look at a website that's got I don't know, all our accomplishments or our adventures over the years, and I'm like, okay, I can see why I'm doing this. So sometimes it's just for your own encouragement and to remind yourself. It's like looking through an old photo album, looking back and remembering some of the old times and adventures and stuff. So just for your own use, I guess what I'm saying. It doesn't always have to be for the project or for the betterment of society or whatever. It can just be a fun thing. And I can't even imagine if you had kids and stuff, like, instead of looking at a photo book, like, let's grab your phone or grab that picture of daddy when he was doing something goofy when he was a kid or something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But we've kind of gone with the idea that it's a central hub. But Mike Strike and Clover, I'm sure you've seen projects for lots of other stuff besides just.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The most used thing. Well, nah, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna say the most used was probably e-commerce, but I don't think it is. The most used probably is a centralized hub, a business card, so to speak, on the internet. I can't tell you the number of websites I've built over the years that was really nothing more than a business card scanned onto the page. I mean, this was pretty much it. Just something where if, and then you do your metadata and your keywords and your all of that kind of stuff for SEO. But it's just for that business, because there's no longer the yellow pages to speak of. Google is now the yellow pages. You push a button on your phone and you say, I need Chinese food in so and so Texas, and it basically pulls it from Google or whatever and gives it to you. So
the available
if you
businesses
got that information out there, on the internet, no matter what the site looks like, I mean, at least somebody is able to get the information and find you. So, I've basically done, like I said, mock up, didn't scan their business card and just put an image up, but I mocked up, just a single page website that basically looked like their business card if they had a cool business card or something. So, something
like a brochure, like similar to like a brochure you'd send somebody in the mail, like, hey, you don't know me, but here's what we do, and a little bit about ourselves and how to contact us.
And you only need a few lines of what they do and that sort of stuff. I mean, it doesn't require a lot. I mean, if they want more information, the contact phone number, the address, everything's there. The person could follow up and ask specific questions. But so I think that's probably the number one reason. But I mean, other reasons would be e-commerce. Obviously, social networking, which you and I both do.
But let's hit on that commerce part. So let's say you're creating a project. Unless you're independently wealthy, you want that project to at least pay for itself. And ideally, we live in a capitalist society. It's okay to allow your project to make you some money. So in order to do that, if you're going to be just on YouTube or your a Facebook thing or your whatever social media platform, or you're just blogging and you want to allow that to create money, a website gives you an actual place that you own that you can put those ads. For example, if you have an ad for, I don't know, just your local gun shop that you got a relationship with, the guy who builds holsters, a hunting guide, a fishing guide, whatever it might be, you can't necessarily put that in your YouTube video all the time if you want to monetize your video. So you could say, link to my website for more resources, and encourage people in the video to check out your website. And now your website is your portal or whatever. It's your place where you can safely, without persecution from the social media platforms that have their own agendas towards marketing and advertising, where you can put your stuff because it's your place. You can also arrange it the way you want, and you can give it the style. So if you're a social media platform, it's going to give you a couple of images to create your brand or your style. You take them over to your website and you show them what you're really all about. I'm going to add, what's the word, authority, or I don't know if that's the right word, but what would be the word? Someone who's official. So you're going to, let's say you're doing a project and you want to eventually have sponsors, or at least you want to impress a manufacturer so that you can do a tour of their factory, or review a product, or get something as a T&E, a testing and evaluation product. Having a website as opposed to simply a social media presence gives, that's, authority is not the word. What's the word I'm looking for? It gives you that like next level, like, okay, justification. They take
validation.
Validation. Perfect. Thank you. It's that validity. Like, okay, I'm here. I put the extra effort into, clovertac.com. I've got the branding there, and then my social media platforms are my outreach. But I'm not, you could say, I don't want to say you're just a YouTuber or you're just a Facebooker, but you've got that extra piece out there. It gives you more real estate, so you've got more to offer them. Okay, I'm going to be on all these social platforms and my website. Whether or not you get a lot of numbers over there, just like a billboard or something, some people just want their images, their branding out there, and you can give them more platform for that.
Right.
I don't know if Nice Strike has anything, but the third thing I'll throw in there is an alternative reason to have a website in addition to your other projects, whether they be on social media or working with other people. There's plenty of people that don't have their own presence out there, but they're heavily involved in participating with others, like DB Cooper. He doesn't do anything out there specifically for DB, but he aids to other people's things. So if you think about all your various things that you're doing on the web, the website can be a stable spearhead. Can be a place that not only is the hub for all your various projects, but it can also be the one solid hub, the shaft of the spear that allows your projects to gain momentum and weight and share audience. So let's say you do, instead of talking about cross-platform all the time, let's say you have one project on YouTube and then another project on YouTube. One way to get those connected and to keep, and encourage your audiences to check out both projects is to do some branding on your website or some effort on your website to, let people know that both of them are out there. Hey, you found this, but we also do this, that kind of thing. So you can use it as your own spear, your own home base. More than a home base, I guess I'm trying to say. It's more like your anchor that you can, one project gets you a little bit further, you bring your website up to that level. The next project you work on gets you a little bit further, bring your website up to that level. It gives you that, I guess, property that you can move with you instead of having to depend on a social media platform that may or may not be consistent over the months or years that you're working on your project.
Well, I mean, it doesn't work any if you've ever owned a storefront. I mean, a website works really no differently. Over the years, as business changes and the focus shifts, I mean, you remodel that store, you change your signage, you rearrange the shelves, you start carrying new product, you know what I mean? You get bigger, you expand, expand the building. So
perfect. Except that with a website, you're not stuck to an actual location. If that side of town gets bad, you can pick it up and move it to where it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, you're free to move anywhere in the world, pretty much, provided you've got a decent internet connection.
And unlike, I think that's a great analogy too, because unlike the old brick and mortar, when it's time to set up shop in Pennsylvania or in Pakistan, I guess Pakistan's a bad example. Some other place that starts with a P that isn't a bunch of ISIS, but
Paris.
Paris, thank. Come on, I think of something better with a P.
Poland.
Yeah.
Poland. There we go. We can all have Poland.
Poland. Okay.
If it's Pennsylvania or Poland, it's just a matter of putting some tags in there. You're not setting up a new, you're not having to build a whole new website for Poland, a whole new website for Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Great analogy. And
we talk about shopping local, especially when we're talking gun shops and stuff. And it's just so easy to get online with the big retailers because there they are. You're sitting in your recliner or whatever. It's just easy to do. And I do know small mom and pop shops that do sell, they sell firearms online. I've bought from several that I've just run across before online, just shopping around. Now it's been used firearms.
So live.
But, and I thought, wow, that's really next level. How come all gun shops dealing with used, inventory there? Because there's certain, firearms you can't get anymore, or maybe, rare is not necessarily expensive. We all know that, but there's certain rare ones, especially when you're talking, late 1800, early 1900, what G calls Ring of Fire guns and Saturday night specials and those type things. They're not expensive, but they're not out there everywhere. And having that inventory out there on the internet, that's searchable and being able to find things, I think is a great move for any small shop that does that. So that gets back into you broaden from just the town you're in or the county you're in. You actually broaden to the entire country at that point. You broaden your customer base.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, we're talking, I think I've been focusing on individuals doing projects, but yeah, if you're a business out there and you don't already have a website, I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, but like Clover just said, you might think, oh, I'm going to be on Gunbroker.
Well, gun shops, you just don't see gun shops putting their inventories online, and that's why.
Well, I think the most of them go, oh, I'm just going to put it on Gunbroker, but then you've got to either have a person on staff who deals with that or spend time out of your schedule working on that. Doing it after hours and stuff, I mean, might work, but now you're not addressing issues and questions during working hours. So your Gunbroker people are going to be distressed potentially. But like you say, putting it on your own website, you can have an archive of those items you've sold. So now people can see an idea of what kind of stuff comes through your shop. And, you've gone through all the effort of posting on your website. Not that it's a lot of effort, but, you've gone through the steps of putting it on your website. On Gunbroker, when you go through all those steps and your auction's over, goodbye. After 30 days, it doesn't even exist ever. Right. On your own website, you could have guns up there that you sold 7 years ago that are still up there collecting views and traffic because of their keywords. And they're also, for the human beings that come in, like Clover said, that's immeasurable, the amount of customer service that's providing, because it's something that no gun shop can offer. You can walk into a gun shop and go, yeah, I don't like their inventory today. But if you could walk into a gun shop and go, what's your inventory been like over the last 8 years? And there's some gun shops that have done that, that have their inventories up like that. And somebody can go, wow, they don't have anything that I want today. However, this gun shop has gone through 4 of those 4-barrel Cop Derringers that I want so bad. I think I'll keep an eye on their website.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know not everyone in the room may agree with me on this, but if you're starting a website for your business, it's really a requirement these days to have a website for your business. So, most businesses don't have websites, and I think that's wrong, because if you're in business, the object is to make money, and the more you can get your message of what your company does, what it sells, what it services, the more people you can get it out there to, the more you can make money from.
Well, and I'm a little different too, because I relate. I don't care if you're online and you're creating content. I don't care if your end game is to make money or not. It has to be approached like a business anyway. The branding, the marketing, distribution, of your content approached in the same manner, in my way of thinking. And that may just be years of owning a business that may be the reason I think that way. But that's why I didn't mean to subvert the conversation into a business chat per se, but I just see the two being very similar.
I agree. I think we're just about at the hour, and I did want to address the question that came in from Jesma on the YouTube side. So what would be the benefit of having, say, a Wix? We've all seen that Wix commercial before the videos lately, versus a site from scratch. Wix, I haven't used it, but I think it's it's a reincarnation of some other stuff we used back in the olden days. Yeah. It's like a WYSIWYG. What you get is what you see is what you see
is what you get.
It's supposed to be dumbed down and easier version. It's really difficult for somebody like Clover, Night Strike, or myself to, I think, recommend those necessarily. But I don't want to, not because they're, I guess because, I don't know. How would you guys answer? I'm having trouble answering that.
They're so cookie cutter. That's what I don't like about that stuff.
I'm trying to think. It's like if okay, you want to
cookie cutter design. It's like one site looks exactly like the other.
It would be like saying, I want to get into guns. So it would be like recommending someone to go to like an amusement park and go to one of those water guns that are like tethered to the thing, and you shoot at the thing's mouths and a balloon opens up. It would be like saying, get into guns by starting there. You're into guns. It's not being into guns, but it's not really jumping into guns either. You know what I mean? So those can work, but I guess my reservation is, if you get started with something like that and you like it and you're digging it, you're going to be immediately hindered. You're going to find out immediately how little it can actually do for you, and that I would think would be frustrating, because then I've too many times I've had to rip up something and start it again, and I'd hate to send somebody down that path. So I don't want to prohibit somebody or suggest that somebody doesn't start. Like Night Strike said at the beginning, just do something. It's always better to start. But on the other hand, it's really not that difficult to look at the couple of steps necessary. When we're talking build it yourself, we're not talking you need to learn code, that you have to open up a notepad and start HTML and everything.
There is software you can get that does the same thing, like we've mentioned before. WordPress, really easy to use.
Free, and it's on your server. We talked about buying the server. The WordPress and stuff will more than likely come with it. But since we're in an hour, I think we'll talk about WordPress and all of what we do with the website in a separate one. But feel free to address the idea of Wix versus.
Well, it's worth noting, because people see Wix. I even have Wix ads that run on my videos, occasionally.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting Wix, because a lot of people they hear it, but they really don't know much about it and the history and all that. Wix filled a void at one time. I can remember when, being in the industry, I can remember when Wix come in, and it was revolutionary for those people that were clueless as to building a website. And it filled a void there. Nowadays, with so many proprietary programs that web hosting companies have built in, and things like WordPress and templates and plugins for WordPress and those sorts of things, it's almost just as easy to utilize those things and have a full array of customization, as opposed to get tied down with Wix and anything that you want to do or manipulate or change. has to be done by Wix.
Yeah.
So.
There's also something to note that Wix is just an easy website creator, more or less.
Well, I just don't I don't want people out there thinking that Wix is some new thing.
It's not new.
Wix is quite old.
Yeah, it's not new. And what I was going to say is, there are offshoots or, other versions that do the same thing that Wix does. But some of the larger web hosts already have that software installed. So when you get a web hosting plan, you can just use their own proprietary one.
Oh, yeah.
As well. So you don't have to use Wix. You can use whatever, your web host has, because they'll more likely they'll have something that can help you.
And Locke's out there, he makes a good point too, that he says, agreeing that the internet's the new phone book. He says he prefers going to an actual site as opposed to a social media like Facebook or something like that. And I agree. When I'm looking for a place, it sort of annoys me when I type their name into Google and all I get is social media stuff, because odds are, they haven't got their contact information. It's in a specific place. It may not be updated. I got to deal with going through posts and it just, I don't know. It's a whole lot different than going to, widgetcompany.com and click on contact, or on most sites, just scroll to the bottom of the page. And right there, it says, so-and-so address, so-and-so phone number.
It's that legitimacy. Like you just feel more comfortable knowing that they have a presence as opposed to just
they actually taken the time,
All right. Well, we're right, like I say, right at just over the hour point, and I think we addressed most of the questions that came in. Everybody, thanks for asking. That kept the conversation going. Hopefully address some of the questions for people that are considering or wondering why you'd want to get a website. And I think just to reiterate what Clover said there, we talked about the website potentially being a hub of all your social media projects or whatever your efforts are out there, a way to archive your adventures and what. But Clover's touched on an important thing there. The Google, when somebody goes to search for you, they're going to use a search engine, and those search engines need to look for something. We see things on YouTube and other platforms where the size or the content or whatever is what the platform determines what they're going to give you as a search result. And the internet's kind of the same way. If you're the one out of, or you're the number 17,000 out of 30,000 on a social media platform, in other words, you're not right at the cream of the top or whatever, it might not be that platform is going to put more effort into promoting the projects that are hitting or that are trending. So sometimes you're going to have a better fight for search engine results out on your own terms, as opposed to in a platform that's biased to their own agenda, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it gives you a more even playing field, I guess, when you're competing with other entities. And that's a quick way to say it.
Gives you a lot more reach too.
Exactly.
And there are still bunches and bunches of people that stay away from the social media scene. So,
like you said, they'll search for something. The only contact is Facebook. I'll walk away. If I'm looking for a restaurant and the only thing they got is Facebook, I'll keep going until I find one, because I know I'm going to find a menu on their own website. I'm going to find their actual hours and not what Facebook thinks their hours are.
Right. Well, on Facebook, you got to realize with that, you've got the suggestions on any of the business, because I get that crap all the time on my stuff where it's like, and it doesn't even tell you who suggested it. And it's like, somebody suggested a change for your website, your page, and it's like, they want to suggest a change for the address or the phone number or what I do, or, and that's the silliest feature I've ever seen in my life. That just random people on Facebook can suggest changes to your page.
Yeah, how scary is that? And you put a bunch of effort and time into a project, and you have it based on a stupid, bloated, anti-Second Amendment platform like a Facebook, and then they change their policies or procedures, or like YouTube has literally done to us recently here, change their TOS, their terms of service, so that retroactively videos you've already made and have been fined and been making hundreds of dollars become a cancer to your channel, and now
Worthless.
randomly they can, not worthless, but cancer, like randomly they'll just decide this video is no longer appropriate, your channel strike. So you put a lot of effort into a social media platform that's at the whim of the platform itself, and again, their political or whatever agenda, and it's frustrating to say the least to have that kind of effort and work just lost.
Yeah, and most hosting companies are not, not politically driven, for the most part. But that's at least that's what I've found. Seems most of them don't really care what's on there.
Well, that's
on there, what site you put up.
Unless it's something that's illegal or it's porn, and porn goes to its own section of the internet, and illegal doesn't get any part of the internet. Valid.
Well, yeah.
I wanted to end it up then with Ghost and Jimmy again. We've been talking about a bunch of stuff. Of course, anybody that's out there watching and has any last questions, we don't have to wrap it up unless you guys have to leave. But I do want to try to keep it at around an hour. But I would, since we talked about a lot of things, like to get Jimmy and Ghost's impression as we ended up. And again, please bring up any points that we didn't finish out on or anything that were, hanging.
No, I think it's been a really good one. Like I said, I did my first kind of website from scratch back in, I guess it went live in August, and I try to spend at least an hour or so a week either updating or going through and recycling. If I'm putting videos on there, making sure that some of my newer stuff is up there, or videos. I think once you get the website started up and running, that's when it actually becomes fun. Because getting it started is fun in itself, the design, to make sure you see the vision that you want your website to be. But I think that once it's up and running, and then you have absolute control over customizing it, what's your message that you're putting out there and all that, that's what's fun for me, is trying to spend at least an hour a week on updating and filtering different videos and all that stuff to try to present the message that I'm at that point in time. Because all of our strategies and all of our points of emphasis are going to change and evolve over time. So what you were focusing on 3 months ago may not be what you're focusing on right now, And so I want to continuously update the videos that I'm posting on my channel, the links that I'm posting on my channel. To I've got a page just for Second Amendment advocates groups and websites. So, if I hear of a different group or organization that's doing some really good, even if it's a state level organization, I'm gonna go and add that to my page, just because I might not live in Arizona, let's say, but there might be a bunch of people that visit the page, and they may not know who to contact for 2A advocacy. So that's what's fun, is always evolving that website.
Yeah, pretty much. I have pretty much the same thing to say, but you guys build it. But yeah, a lot of good information passed around. Oh, go ahead. My bad. I was trying to read what you were saying right there.
I'm just leaving notes to myself.
Oh,
so
okay.
that they don't interrupt you.
Gotcha. Yeah, but pretty much good information around the whole chat. I do appreciate it. Clover, that was brought to light the whole online business card thing for the websites. That was some good info. So a lot of good stuff to ponder on, I guess. Appreciate that.
Right on. So that I don't interrupt you. I mean, I was gonna hit a couple of points that Ghost said there, and feel free, guys, to throw in as well. But having your presence on social media platforms requires, if you want help or collaboration, requires you to give access to your account. Very few of the accounts out there allow you to have managers sign on as like non-admins or editors. On a website, it's the other way around. So just to put a little bit of actual stuff out here, I'm going to jump into MinutemanUniversity.com, and it's using WordPress. And I'm going to jump into behind the scenes. I'm now looking at the control board or whatever, the control room, and I can jump into users. And right now there's just the one user. But if I wanted to add Jimmy, it's as simple as adding Jimmy and making him a contributor, an author, an editor, so I can give them different levels of access. And this is the kind of thing that as your own site, like Ghost was saying, you own it. It's your domain, not domain name, but like it's your property. Is you can bring people in to help and collaborate. So you can have people that are part of your project, and now they can go in there and add pictures or add text or whatever they're going to do to collaborate. Or if you need help and you found you need an answer to a question, you can bring somebody in and give them access. And then when they're done helping you, a contractor, a consultant, when they're done, you take away their username or you turn it off, so that way you make up an admin or a test account, so that when you need someone to help you, you can let them in and they can help you, and then they leave, and then you take their key. So that's something you don't normally get with the social media platforms. And we talked about why you might want a website. I think that's an important piece that we didn't hit before.
Yeah. Yep.
And then also to address what Ghost said there, as far as linking to places like gun owners' rights groups, let's not forget that we can either be an audience and just be a dumb little kid watching TV, like we all did, started out with this whole thing when we were kids. And now we're in a place where we can control not just what we're putting out there and how much stuff we're putting out there and how we're going to put it out there, but we can help other organizations when it comes time for a Google or any search engine to respond to a request. If I type in gun owners' rights groups into Google, it's going to give me results based on all kinds of data. Some of the data that they use to accumulate who they're going to recommend first or second or third or at all is how valid is this website. So Connecticut Citizens Defense League in Connecticut, by Ghost linking to it on his site, by Every Second Matters linking to it on that site, by me linking to it on my site somewhere, somebody linking to it on their site somewhere. Those are more anchor points that link back to that nonprofit gun owners' rights group that they can't pay for. They can ask people to do it, but they can't make anybody do that. So you're actually helping them on the infrastructure of the internet by creating those links. And while, Ghost said, maybe somebody from Arizona will find my page, the human being aspect is certainly valid and it's important. You don't want to forget that the human beings are going to be the ones visiting your website, but some of the resources and things that you put on your website can be for the goal of helping these other organizations on the other side of the internet, on the back end of the internet. And again, you can have as huge a website as you want, and 3/4 of your website can be devoted to helping gun owners' rights groups, and the human beings that interface might not ever even see that stuff. It's not even clutter for them. So there's lots of reasons to have a website that we'll get into in future shows. Well, anything else? Points? There's anything else coming in from questions?
Nope.
Raphael's saying when stuff gets bought out, you own your site, you control its destiny. VidMe, good example there. If somebody would have inadvertently just been starting their project out on VidMe, 6 weeks later, Travis crashes the place, you have to start all over. With the website, you continue on.
Yeah. So the week before, they decide to close up shop, I say I'm moving all my stuff. I'm going to do stuff on VidMe. When then Travis finishes uploading all of his videos, it goes under. Conspiracy? I think not.
The only thing with a website to watch out for is to get some type of a reputable hosting company that's been around for a while. I'm sure you guys have already mentioned that, and keep backup archives of that. In the event that the hosting company does go belly up or get bought out, or some drastic change or something happens, then it's just a matter of signing on with a new hosting company, uploading some stuff, and you're done. You're back on.
Good point. And that's possible. You can literally go into a WordPress. It's maybe a little bit more complicated this, but go to your tools, go to export, and every once in a while I can just download the entire website like that. And if I really needed to, I could go to import and cram it back up there if I had to. It's a little bit more complicated than all that for the pictures and stuff, but that's true. And you can't really.
Yeah, but you're talking about if your hosting company was to completely crater, because we're talking about the VidMe situation. If your hosting company just out of the blue one day, you log on your website, it's not there, you call, nobody answers the phones. Well, you just go to the different hosting company, you sign up, you load WordPress, you import your stuff, and bam, you're back on the internet.
Yep.
Well, okay, true. I'd say more realistically, though, you just get sick of a hosting company for whatever reason, you decide to move. Because honestly, when's the last time you heard of a big hosting company failing?
That's true. Yeah, that's why I said if you go with one of the bigger established ones, yes.
And that's the thing. We do have a place on the internet now where these large hosting companies are established. They're pretty much here. And even if they did fail, somebody else would come along, take all their stuff up and scoop it up, and you probably not even realize that it got changed hands. But that's a valid point, that you can pick up your own site, copy it, which is always good, but then, or you have a backup, but then place it anywhere you want. And then I think I'll wrap up with just taking a look at the Minuteman University site. It's in its infancy. I kind of debated on just setting the whole thing up on live video, but I figured that might be, without a finished product to see, it's very difficult to understand all the stuff we're building. So if anything, we'll just build a brand new site and use this as a template or something when we get into the actual creation from scratch of a WordPress. But then as we go on, we'll start to archive everything here, and the site will grow. There's a menu here. You can take a look at some of the stuff we're looking to build with this project. It's very similar to the Every Second Matters. Every Second Matters is more of the advocacy and actual efforts that are going on out there, where Minuteman University is more for the tools and skills and resources for the creator. And Clover and Nightstrike, I'm sure, will help out. And I've got a link, I think, somewhere under skills here, so you can check out Clover's resources out there. I thought I had you here. Or do I have you just under the creating firearms content, maybe? We'll get Clover's link out there more often, though. But Clover's got excellent resources on his YouTube channel and his website, so check those out. We'll put Nightstrike stuff up here, too. I've got Indiegogo going for the next couple of days. This was to kind of get the ball rolling on these. The website doesn't cost nothing. What this is for is just to give me some time to spend on it. So if anybody's interested, throw $2 in there. I'm only asking for $2. And that just is another way to supplement this project. And we'll do other things in the future. And it's a collaborative effort. So as the audience, don't just sit back. Reach up to your keyboards, get on the gun channels and join in a live chat or on the YouTube, and let us know what we're missing. Like where can we answer a question or talk about another aspect of this, so that it's as complete a resource as we can make it. All right, with that, I guess we will head out. Thanks again for everybody for joining, and we'll see you again next time.